You got the raise. You remember the exact moment. Your manager said the number. You nodded, said thank you, walked back to your desk, sat down, and opened your laptop like nothing happened. You thought you'd feel different. You didn't. And that should have told you everything. You're sitting at a table you've sat at 1,000 times. It's a Tuesday morning, maybe 7:43 a.m. The light is the same. The chair is the same. The cup of tea in front of you is the same brand your mother used to buy. Nothing has changed, except the number that hits your account on the first of every month. It's bigger now, noticeably bigger. You knew this day was coming. You planned for it. You told yourself, quietly, carefully, that when this number changed, everything would follow. That was the deal you made with yourself. You were 6 years old the first time you understood that money was a problem. Not because anyone sat you down and explained it, but because you saw your father pause before saying yes to something small. A toy, a school trip, a birthday cake from the good bakery. He paused, and you learned, without a single word, that there are people who pause and people who don't. You decided, standing there at 6 years old, that you would be the kind of person who doesn't pause. So you worked. You studied. You stayed late. You said yes when others said no and no when others said yes. You built something. And now the number changed. So why are you still pausing? Some patterns don't live in your bank account. They live in your bones. 3 weeks after the raise, you go to a restaurant. A nicer one than you're used to. Not expensive by most standards. But by yours, by the version of you that developed opinions about money in a house where money had opinions about everything. It's a little uncomfortable. You sit down. The waiter brings menus. You open yours and immediately, instinctively, your eyes go to the right side of the page. The prices. Before the food. Before the descriptions. Before you even register what you want. Prices first. You've done this your whole life. You don't notice yourself doing it. It's as natural as breathing. You pick something in the middle range. Not the cheapest. But not the thing you actually wanted either, which was the third item from the top. Your friend orders without looking at the price at all. You notice this. You say nothing. Later, walking home, you think about the number in your account. The new number. The bigger number. And you realize, nothing about that dinner changed. Not the way you sat. Not the way you looked at the menu. Not the quiet, invisible calculation running in the back of your head. The money changed. You didn't. Something feels off. You can't explain it yet. You changed the number. But the number wasn't the problem. It's a Saturday, 11 a.m. You have nothing urgent to do. This is rare. You've spent years making sure there was always something urgent to do, because urgency felt like progress, and progress felt like safety, and safety was the only feeling you were ever really chasing. You're sitting on your bed, phone face down, and the apartment is quiet. You should feel fine. You don't. There's a low hum of anxiety sitting somewhere behind your chest. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just there. It's been there so long that you stopped noticing it the way you stopped noticing the sound of a fan in a room. You pick up your phone. You open your banking app. The number is good. The number is better than it's ever been. The anxiety doesn't move. And this is when it starts. The question you've been unknowingly building toward for years. You always believed the anxiety was about money. About not having enough. About the pauses and the calculations and the choosing the second cheapest thing. But the money is there now. And the anxiety is still there. So what is the anxiety actually about? You don't answer this. Not yet. You put the phone down. You go make coffee. You scroll through something. You let the question dissolve into a Sunday routine. But it doesn't leave. It just waits. The problem wearing the face of money is usually something money can't fix. You start to notice you're performing two different people. At work, you're the person who earned more. You carry it lightly, but you carry it. You arrive with a kind of quiet confidence that you rehearsed without realizing you were rehearsing it. At home, inside, in the small moments where no one is watching, you are still the other person. You still feel the pause before spending on yourself. Not on bills, not on responsibilities. On yourself. A jacket you want. A trip that would cost real money. A Saturday where you don't work, where you simply exist without producing anything. You can afford these things now. You know you can afford them. And still your hand hesitates over the purchase button like there's a voice somewhere just below your hearing saying, "Are you sure this is okay?" You're 29 years old, or 32, or 35, and you're still asking for permission from a version of your parents who aren't in the room. This is the thing that started bothering you at the restaurant. This is what the anxiety on that Saturday was trying to say. You are living inside a self-image that was built for scarcity. And scarcity left. But the self-image stayed. You are not who you thought you were. You are someone playing a character they built for survival and forgot to update. This moment, right here, is uncomfortable because you recognize it. And once you recognize it, you can't go back to not recognizing it. The version of you that built walls to survive doesn't automatically know when the danger is gone. This is the level no one talks about. Not in the financial articles. Not in the advice threads. Not in the conversations with people who've made it and want to tell you how they made it. Nobody talks about what happens inside when the external conditions change, but you don't. You start doing a kind of invisible accounting. Every time you spend money on something that isn't necessity, food, rent, basic functioning, there's a micro-trial happening in your head. You are the prosecutor. You are the defendant. You are the judge. $40 on dinner out. Justifiable. You worked hard this week. $80 on a book you wanted. Excessive. You could have gotten it cheaper. $300 on a weekend trip. Pending review, reserved for later guilt. You don't do this consciously. It runs like a background process, a tab that never closes. And here is the heaviest part. You earn more. And because you earn more, you expected to feel freer. But you feel more surveilled than ever. Because now the gap between what you have and what you allow yourself is visible. Before, it was covered by the excuse of not having enough. Now the excuse is gone. And what's left is just the raw fact of your own restriction. You are restricting yourself. Not the economy. Not your circumstance. Not a lack. You. You are not a person waiting to be freed by money. You are a person who learned to be a prisoner and forgot the door has been open for a while now. Some cages aren't built with bars. They're built with beliefs. And beliefs don't fall when the money changes. It doesn't come from a breakthrough. It comes from a Thursday, which is disappointing because you expected it to come from something bigger. You're in a store. There's a coat. It's not practical. You don't need a coat. You have coats. But you've wanted this specific kind of coat for 3 years, and every time you've passed something like it, you've made a calculation and put it back. Today you don't calculate. Not because you've solved anything. Not because you've read the right book or had the right conversation or done 45 minutes of journaling about your relationship with scarcity. But because you're tired. Tired of the trial. Tired of the verdict. Tired of the background process running on something that no longer needs to run. You buy the coat. You walk out. And you wait for the guilt. It comes. It's real. It sits on your chest for about 20 minutes on the walk home. And then it's quiet. Not gone, but quiet. And in the quiet, something small and significant happens. You notice that you're okay. That the world didn't correct you for spending money on something you wanted. That nothing bad followed. The progress isn't that you bought a coat. The progress is that for 20 minutes, you felt the fear and you didn't let it make the decision. The first act of freedom rarely feels like freedom. It feels like discomfort you survived. A few months pass. You're still not fixed. You want to be clear about that with yourself. There are still evenings when you open the banking app for no reason except anxiety. There are still moments when you underspend on yourself and overspend on others because spending on others never required the same tribunal. But something has shifted in the background. The people in your life, the ones who knew the old accounting of you, start noticing something they can't name. You seem less tight. You say yes to things a little quicker than before. You don't always order the second cheapest option. They notice. They don't ask. And you don't explain. Because how do you explain that the change isn't about money? That the raise you got 6 months ago, the number that increased, did almost nothing on its own? That the real shift started when you stopped treating your own comfort as something that had to be justified to an invisible committee. You feel a quiet distance from the person you were 18 months ago. Not contempt, not nostalgia, just distance. Like looking at a room you used to live in and recognizing the furniture, but no longer being able to remember exactly what it felt like to sit in it. There's still one thing unresolved. The anxiety. Not the spending anxiety. That's gotten smaller. But the deeper hum. The one that was there at 11 a.m. on that Saturday with the phone face down. You haven't found the bottom of it yet. You know it isn't about money. But you don't yet know entirely what it is about. Getting distance from who you were isn't the same as knowing who you are. You're sitting somewhere new. Literally. A table you don't usually sit at. A city you don't usually visit. A Saturday morning with nothing urgent. And this time, instead of a low hum behind your chest, there is something close to quiet. Not silence. You've stopped expecting silence. But quiet. You think about the person who checked the right side of the menu before the left. Who calculated every purchase in the pause between wanting and having. Who made more money and waited, genuinely waited, for the life that was supposed to follow. The life didn't follow, because the life was never in the number. The number was a door. That's all it was. A door to a room you still had to choose to walk into. And most people, when they get the raise, when the account grows, when the number changes, they stand in front of the door and wait for it to open from the inside. It doesn't open from the inside. You open it. Slowly. With some resistance. With some fear that makes it look, from the outside, like hesitation. But you open it. This is the thing you couldn't have understood at 6 years old, watching your father pause. He wasn't pausing because of the money. He was pausing because somewhere along the way, someone taught him that wanting things was dangerous. And he passed it to you not with words, but with that pause. With the shape of that silence. You are not angry at him for it. You understand now that he was operating from the same invisible cage, passed down from whoever built it for him, in whatever room they grew up in whatever circumstance taught them that having things could be taken away. It travels, generation to generation, not as a lesson, as a feeling that sits in the body and runs the calculations and puts the cheaper option back in your hand before you've consciously chosen it. The raise didn't fix this, but the raise gave you enough stillness to see it. And seeing it, really seeing it, is the kind of change that doesn't reverse. You thought this was about money. It never was. If something in this felt familiar, if you recognized a moment, a calculation, a pause that wasn't really about the money, this channel is where those conversations live. Subscribe to Noir Capital, because the next video goes somewhere you haven't been yet.